YouTube, this is Craig and Nicole here with RV Road Ramblers coming at you with a new video this week.
Yeah, today we are going to finally replace our gearbox and our Accu-slide slide system. We had noticed that when we were in travel mode that the slide seemed like it was popping, or we almost felt like it was like slipping a little bit, to the point where when we were getting close to the end, that we were actually having to manually slide these things in and out, which was a little tricky because it was our bedroom slide, and our bedroom slide is not very easily accessible from the outside. So we're finally getting it. We did a little research and we found that it is the gearbox, and so we're going to go ahead and give you a step-by-step how to replace this gearbox, and hopefully, you know, we help somebody out there.
Alright, so with that, let's get started. Okay, so step one, we are inside the trailer now, and it is this slide, has our closet in it, and so all the mechanism, the cables, the motor, the gearbox is all located back behind this trim piece here. So step one is we're going to go ahead and take this apart. Now on ours, there's just a couple of screws on either side of this, which gives us some access, which is really nice. So we will just go ahead and start.
We're going to swap sides, and I'm going to hold on to the...
Make sure it didn't fall off on our TV.
Yeah.
Right. And just like that. And there is the gearbox. And this is the motor. And I'm not sure, I'm guessing you might be able to see bits and pieces of the chain and the cables going off either direction. So what we're going to do now, we need to get this, we need to give ourselves some room. So I think what we'll do is, it even recommends in the documentation for some of this service stuff to pull the slide in about half the distance or so, to give yourself some room and be able to access all that equipment that's up there. So we're going to do that, and then the next step after that will be to brace the room up, which we'll show you that too in the next step. So.
So right now we're going to brace these 4x4s underneath the slide. This is a small slide, so he's got a board underneath, and he's just wedging it in there so that you get a nice tight fit in there underneath.
Making it snug, because it's really just kind of keeping the slide from moving.
Yeah, it was more so not for falling out, but to help keep it in the same position, right?
Yep. And it should, so it's tight, but I'm not like lifting it up a whole lot. It's just barely snugging it up. So like that one.
Do it on both sides.
Let's see. And we did what you're seeing here. This is black. It doesn't matter what color. It's just duct tape. I added that because there's an underlayer under this slide. It's like a kind of a fabric, almost like a tarp, waterproofing, and so I didn't really want to damage that too much. So we decided to add some duct tape to it. There's not a lot of room here. So I think that'll be good. So now we'll go into the next phase, which is to start taking those chains. Okay, so we are back up inside, looking inside here. And we just went half the distance, of the travel coming in, and doesn't provide a whole lot of room here. I guess you could, if you wanted to, go about taking all this off. I'm not really into doing that unless I just really get into a bind. But anyway, they do suggest that you mark, the links on these chains, so that when you go back and reinstall it, that you can try to reattach the chains as close to being the exact same position as when they came off. So that's what we're doing right now, is we're just going to mark the chain links. And I'm going to choose to mark either side of, we're using some white fingernail polish here. Nicole's pretty white. Alright, so if you're able to see what we're doing, we got our 2 chain pieces here. This one's got a lot of tension on it because it's the one that controls the in movement, and we're halfway in, so it's actually got more tension on it than the one that controls the out movement. As you can see, I can move that much more easily than this one. So, but there is a nut, if you can see it, it's right on the back side of both of these, and that will relieve tension on both of those. And there is a backup nut on the front side, which should allow you to be able to put these back on and resume the tension that was there before by just tightening those up. So we are going to start. Release it. You see over here? So I'm just going to take my chain here, and I'm going to kind of feed it back and around, and there it is, it's off. So there we go. Alright, next you've got your bracket here that holds the motor on, and it's mounted to, I'm guessing there's a reinforcement bracket in the wall there somewhere. We can leave the bracket in place, but I got 2 carriage bolts that drop through the gearbox, and it also, I believe, is 11 millimeter. Everything's all the same. It's all 11 millimeter, which is nice. So we're just gonna go ahead and loosen that. There it is.
Dirt and all.
It's the old one.
That's what it looks like.
And there's that. And that's the spindle coming out of the motor. It's just going to slip right back into the new one. I'll go grab it. Okay, so here's the new one. And Nicole we were just talking about the fact that we're going to leave a link for all these parts where we got them from Amazon. The one we found actually came with the bracket attached to it. So we started putting the new motor on to the old bracket, and I was just talking about how we didn't need to replace the bracket. It came with the bracket, but once we started to install it, it turns out this new replacement motor has a collar on it. If you can see that raised lip collar right there. Whereas the old one, let me grab the old one. Show you. Turns out the old one does not have a collar right there. So the bracket is actually different. And you know, this one will fit into that one, but the old one, it holds it out too far. So I am going to have to take the bracket off of there and replace it with the new bracket. So that's what we're getting ready to do. Who knows, maybe there's a reason for them changing the bracket. Maybe now that I've got both brackets off, I can really show you the difference. If you look, maybe it's, let's see how can I show you? I line those up. See, I mean, it's just the littlest bit, but you see the difference here? If I line those up right, it's like, you know, 3/16 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch difference. Looks like it's deeper, and deeper this way as well. I don't really have a way to line them up. So we're going to take the new one and we'll put the motor back on it. Alrighty, so we just put the new bracket in place. I did you need a square tip. If you're working on RVs, you just got to have a square tip bit. I used the Phillips to take it out, but putting them back in, I was just kind of spinning the heads a little bit, so I switched out to a square tip, put that on. So now I've got the new bracket, got the motor mounted to it. Now I'm getting ready to go back to that point where I'm going to install the new gearbox. Hopefully now when I go to slip that on, and that fits up against the cutout. Now I like the way that sits in there much better. And before I couldn't get this carriage belt to drop in, so now we're going to hope this will actually feed down into it now, and it does. Thank goodness. And I'm going to go ahead and slip this nut underneath. Get it started. And that's pretty good. Alright, got all that back on. Now it's time to put the chains back on. Alright, so we went in, picked up our cable, and earlier you remember we marked it, and I had the white markings, that fingernail polish right here in the front. So I've already got this first chain back on, and I started it back here, rethreading the tension. So I'll have to tighten both of these up to get that tension back on both of these. And I remember this one was much tighter than this one was. So right now I am just got my 11mm socket on, and you can see how much space I have here on this. That tells me how much I've still got to tighten these up. get back to where they need to be. So I want to kind of tighten them back and forth. I'm going to do this one first, and then I'll work on the next one. All right. So now we are assembling the other side. I'm looking for my white markings. There they are. And we have to do some adjustments in order to get, oh, it's close. It's close. There you go. So see how we got that lined up? My white links are now in the same spot that they were before. That's good. I'm going to feed this back on here. Okay, so we just put our chain back on the last sprocket here, and we were lined up with the white markings. So now I fed it back through my... Okay, so we are getting really close to getting this thing put back together, and in the process, you may remember we were just in the last step there, we noticed we were putting the cables back on chains, and we had some really loose cables up here, and they were concerning to Nicole and I. So we got to looking around and trying to figure out what was going on, and come to find out, when I released the cable or the chain on the motor prior, it actually allowed enough slack that the cable going to the outside of the slide had come detached from the standoff bracket. And in searching around, I discovered that. And so it might be something that you want to just keep in the back of your mind when you're working on these. You know, when you're putting it all back together, something doesn't look right, make sure you just check all the points and look for that. But we did reattach the cable to the slide out. And then a few other things. You know, I'm kind of an overanalyzer, and I was really struggling with the, you know, what operates what. But we've really come to some things that I just thought I'd explain in all my reading on the, you know, forums and what have you. You know, the brackets up here, you'll notice, are labeled. You got two sets that say in. So there's an in cable here, and you got the out one behind it, and same thing over here. You got one that's labeled out and one labeled in back behind it. All right. So without going through all of it and, you know, how the adjustments work, there is a sticker usually located on the back of this whole system that goes through the whole thing about how to make adjustments if you ever need to do that. But what's really critical is we did keep our teeth the same, and you know, we put the chains back on so that everything lined up. You can see my marks here are still lined up, which is all good. We did notice that the tensions were just a little bit off. What I found out was what's really, really important is that these, let's go back over to these. You want both of these, we'll call these carriage brackets, okay? Both of these carriage brackets, important that they are vertically aligned like such, and that their orientation like this, or I guess what it is, it's just you don't want these to be able to rub and knock each other as they pass by each other. So they're supposed to be oriented straight up and down, so not tilted so much, and they're supposed to be oriented, you know, plumb like this, so that they can pass each other. The other thing is that when we brought the room in halfway, what they say is when the room is traveling in, and again we're going to look at this, the in carriage bracket is the one that's doing the work, and that'd be the same back over here on this side. The one marked in is the one that's doing the work to bring it in. So if you're bringing this slide in, hi.
Trying to work the Osmo here. Sorry, guys.
So the tension should be greater on those in cables and the in chain, because the in, that we were bringing the room in, and so they would be taut, which they are pretty tight if you're, as I'm trying to push on them. Now the back ones, the out cables, will have just enough slack in them so that they can move about a half inch up or down, so a total of 1 inch altogether. So
well,
it's not a
to
whole
clarify
lot.
that, one's in the front, one's in the back. They're opposing. They're
Yes.
opposites.
So I'm just going back to what's labeled on the carriage brackets.
Yeah.
So like I said, we were bringing a room in. So I'm looking at my in cable. If you want to show them, the in carriage bracket is really tight on this side. The one that's labeled in, right there. And the one that's labeled out, see how it has play? Not a whole lot of play, so it's dragging, but it definitely, this one is much more difficult to pull. Not too tight. Same with this one. So on this one, they're reversed. The in one's on the back.
Let me get over there.
Okay. You can,
My video skills are.
and it's tighter, whereas this one's got the play to go about a half inch up or down. Again, it's not mega loose, not dragging on anything, but right here. So the next step in this process now is that we want to go ahead and test the room. This is the big moment, right? And we're going to do this in increments. We're going to take it nice and slow so not to damage anything. We got it halfway in, halfway out. So what we're going to do is we're going to move. First, I got to take out my support brackets outside, get rid of those, and then we will move the room about a quarter of a distance further in. We'll go ahead and continue in, and then look at everything again. Feel the the tautness of the cables. Make sure everything's moving nice, smooth, that it sounds good, and all that. And then we'll do it again. We'll just keep repeating those steps, and we'll do the same going back out. And then once we feel comfortable, then we'll know that we're all good. So hopefully we'll all go good. Let's check it out.
Like to help. Kitty helpers. So that all sounded really good.
Nice and flush, no grinding, no chattering, all the corners lined up. They all seal up against the trailer nice. So
we did pull it in a couple times.
We
pulled
did.
it out.
We went in and out and just kind of watched every point, every angle, just to make sure everything was sealing up really nice. And, so far it seems like everything's great, so we're going to go with that. I think we have a successful install. So if you have any questions about this, feel a little nervous, whatever, feel free to leave us some comments. We'd love to help out in whatever way we can. Hoping that this video helps you out in one way or another. If you like it, please do hit the like button, and if you haven't already, we would definitely love it if you would subscribe to our channels. We're constantly putting up new videos for Fix-It things, and we got a bunch of stuff planned for the future. So we'd love that. If you want to visit our website, we're going to do blogs on this too, so we'll have a written part of it at www.rvroadramblers.com. So just check it out. We appreciate you watching the video. Have a good day.